Hi, my name is Reed Silverne. The name of the show is Fed Pride, and the reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. No one in my agency or any other agency of the federal government has reviewed what I'm about to say, and the main reason they haven't reviewed or approved what I'm about to say is because even I don't know what I'm about to say. The first thing I'd like to talk about, even though I said I didn't know what I was about to say, is let's imagine that a state actually made it illegal for a politician to lie. My God, what a horrible thought. A politician should be running like crazy. But in fact, that's true in Oregon. And in Oregon, a congressman who is basically run out by his own party and forced to not run for re-election. One of the freshman congressmen of 1994, his name is Wes Cooley, is indicted yesterday, or December 11th, because he lied on his campaign material. And basically what he lied about was that he claimed that he was a Korean War veteran, when in fact there's no record at all that he had ever participated in the Korean War, even though he was indeed a veteran. And on top of that, his wife, who he married a few years ago but's been living with since 1977, has been taking the widow's pension from the Department of Veterans Affairs for years and years and years. Well, it was illegal. Federal rules forbid widows' payments when widows remarry and live openly with another man. So he participated in this particular fraud against the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I don't know what to do. I don't know how it would be possible for politicians to actually not lie and not exaggerate. And where do you draw the line between lying and not? But it's a felony for a politician to lie and on any documents that are put out by the state. And apparently, if it's an official voter pamphlet and a politician lies about his record, he can be indicted for lying. So I think it's just, to say the least, shocking. Not that it's shocking that a politician would lie, but shocking that somebody would actually make it illegal. I'm not sure how many politicians in Oregon are going to stay out of jail now that that is not only the law, but apparently a law that's being enforced. So that to me is just amazing and pretty shocking. I'm going to talk about a couple things that I've been talking about, and I'm going to talk about it because a lot of these things that I'm talking about are now reflected in the press and are being put into articles by other people. And I don't know how many people out there watch me even on a semi-regular basis or could attest that I thought of these things before they appeared in the New York Times or the USA Today, but I'm proud to say that somebody has gotten similar ideas or the same ideas. The first is about, let's see if I can find the article, as I would like to. DNA hard sell. Here's an article in the New York Times by Meredith Wadman, a reporter for Nature, a British journal, and she says, what would happen if a woman walked into a doctor's office and said, well, I'm worried about breast cancer. My mother had breast cancer, my grandmother had breast cancer. I'm worried about breast cancer. And the doctor said, well, why don't we take a genetic test that's just come out and see whether you have a tendency for breast cancer. He gives the test and charges the cost of the test to the insurance company. The insurance company turns around, changes the basic risk on that particular person and triples her insurance cost or insurance premium per month because now she's a high-risk person, has a disease. And what they didn't come into over there is, what if the insurance company says there's a pre-existing condition? you have a genetic defect from birth, or maybe even before birth, that says that you may get breast cancer. And of course, they're working out tests for prostate cancer and a lot of other things. I had called this an unintended consequence of the law that allows people to carry forward their insurance, that forbids insurance companies from canceling insurance and allows people to go from job to job. And basically, insurance companies are going to have a tendency, which is what I predicted, to basically make a decision at the beginning of someone's career whether that person is insurable or whether the company that employs that person is insurable. And of course, the whole basis of insurance is risk. And what better way to control risk than to see if people have a genetic tendency for this disease and that disease and another disease. And of course, now they're developing the technology to actually do that. And she's calling this a grave danger, that while insurance is portable, people still have the ability to increase the cost of insurance. And there's no doubt about that. Let's see if I can get this to run a little louder. So that is a really big problem, and I really believe that it's a problem. So apparently now somebody's come forward, and good news, I have a call, and I'm going to take it right now. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Oh, sorry, I got the wrong number.
Oh, okay, very good. All right, that's my first call of the day, and that's just one of the many issues. Another one, I've been talking in the past about getting down on immigrants and Proposition 187, some various other laws and regulations, the latest welfare bill that basically cuts legal but non-citizens from being able to get welfare and food stamps that their taxes pay for, just like our taxes pay for. And I predicted that there'd be a tremendous increase in applications for citizenship, and of course that was much of a prediction because I predicted that after it already came true. But now Mexico, one of the reasons that Mexicans, citizens, didn't apply for American citizenship and just lived year after year after year, long after they assimilated to American society as Mexican citizens and didn't take American citizenship, is because Mexican law was set up not to allow dual citizenship. Now, if you were a British citizen, you took American citizenship, you could become a dual citizen. America allows it, and so does Britain. And in Mexico, however, you lose your rights to inheritance, you lose your rights to own land, and so on and so forth if you literally have to renounce Mexican citizenship in order to take Mexican citizenship. Well, the Mexican Congress just passed a law that allows for dual citizenship, and it allows for the Mexican citizens who become American citizens to keep their inheritances, to own land in Mexico, to own property in Mexico. Does not allow them to vote in Mexico, although some analysts think that that might not be too far away. I'm going to press a button over here, and it's not working. Let's see. There we go. I'm bringing up the phone numbers right now, and anybody who wants to call about these subjects or any other subjects, I would very, very much like to take calls. And if you don't care to call, that's fine too. And if there's actually nobody out there who is seeing those numbers, then that's fine too. But I think it would be great if we could take some calls, and if people out there wanted to communicate and get their opinions on TV, that's fine. I only have to ask, no cussing whatsoever. I'll cut you off as quick as I can if I do hear cussing. Now, another thing I'd like to talk about is the welfare bill. And the welfare bill that passed basically says that welfare recipients have 2 years on welfare, or they have to get a job, and if they don't get a job in 2 years, the welfare is cut off whether they have children or not. If they get a job and then lose their job and get back on welfare, get another job, lose their job, and get back on welfare. Once they've had 5 years total of welfare, they're off. They're off, they're out, they're not going to get it again. And that's basically what the latest welfare bill says. Now, it has a couple other provisions in there. It allows about 25% leeway to allow people to go over the limits and even over the 5-year absolutely nothing limit for hardship cases. Also allows funds for daycare and some other things in order to help them exist without a job. And forbids legal aliens, people who are here legally, people who have their green card, from getting food stamps or welfare assistance, even though these people are official, they pay taxes, they're legally allowed to work, and they have Social Security numbers and so on and so forth. They still aren't allowed to get any kind of aid or these kinds of aid, and that's part of that law. Now, some of that is considered kind of extreme, others aren't, but there are unintended consequences, and that's what I've been talking about in some of my previous shows. And one of the unintended consequences is that we're now realizing, and I think that people realized it all along, that the housing patterns have been designed to keep very, very poor, very, very destitute people in one part of town, and to open up development in the suburbs where good people, nice people, people with some money, people with some jobs can go to work, come home, and never interact or deal with anybody of another class. And there's no doubt about it. That is the case. There are tremendous numbers of new plants, new factories going up in suburbs that are completely isolated from the inner cities and the center cities and from pockets of real poverty. And in these suburbs are tremendous numbers of low-wage, low-capable jobs, and among them fast food, coffee shops, retail. Whenever you have a bedroom community, you just have a tremendous amount of support and services. And a lot of these services have low-skilled jobs that are available to anybody who can take it. You end up with this ironic situation, an ironic position, where you have tremendous amounts of people on welfare who are being thrown off welfare because they can't find jobs, and jobs going and begging 30, 40, 50 miles away. And one of the things that's happening is the states are being incentivized with extra income and extra monies from the welfare budget to lower the number of people that are on welfare and to put people in jobs, put them in jobs at all costs. West Virginia, for instance, their pockets of poverty are in the country. The jobs are in the cities. They're actually paying people to relocate them out of jobless rural areas and into cities. And it's only a matter of time, and there's certain places like South Carolina where basically they're insisting that people on welfare move to where the jobs are. So one of the unintended consequences, of course, will be, and I am absolutely convinced of it, an exodus of poor people out of the inner cities and into the suburbs, because that's where the minimum wage jobs are. And if you make people an absolute necessity of getting out of a place that's jobless and going to a place that has minimum wage jobs, people are going to do that. One state, Missouri, actually placed 400 welfare people on jobs, and in the course of time they placed a total of 800. Now, unfortunately, 400 of the 800 quit their jobs after they got on it or were fired because they just weren't dependable enough to keep a job. But 400 people stayed on the job. A lot of states are coming in there, and they're setting up situations where they pay the welfare payment. Instead of paying it to the welfare person, they're paying it directly to the company, and that company is passing that welfare payment along as some of the part of the wage. And in one plan, they actually put $1 per hour in that the person works into a special development fund, and then give them $1,000 savings at the end. Okay, we have a call, and I'm about to take it. Hello, caller.
How are you doing?
Very good. Thank you for calling.
I'd like to, just talk about, what a lot of companies are doing. They're hiring people for 90 days.
Oh,
and
yes.
then they change over real quick, so they don't have to give them no benefits or whatever. And because they feel that, okay, I just happen to know somebody that was a nurse. She went to a nursing place, and they said, oh, you're doing a fantastic job at our place. 90 days, she's ready to be hired full time. She's out the door, and they got somebody else in immediately.
Absolutely.
So the loyalty and all that is out the door with the working people now.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that.
Thank you.
And that is one of the big problems, I think, that we've been having with employers in general, that a lot of employers don't seem to have a sense that there's a mutual obligation to their employees, that they're actually gaining something by having those employees work for them. They're gaining employees that are loyal, they're gaining employees that work hard, and they're gaining employees that don't alienate their customers. And I think when they mistreat employees and they allow morale to go down, they don't reward good work, and they refuse to hire people for the 90th day, so, the day that they're about to get some benefits, that other people see that. And they say, well, what are they going to do for me? Why should I work hard for him? If he's going to treat this hard worker badly, he'll probably treat me badly too. And he's going to lose good employees very, very quickly. He's going to have a lot of turnover. And that's going to cost him, because he's going to have to train and retrain and retrain, and that costs a lot of money. So I really agree with that caller. And however, I would be against making a law against it. I mean, some employers are just going to be mean, and the market's going to take care of a lot of them, because customers are going to come in there, and those unloyal, badly treated employees are going to cuss that customer out. They're going to treat that customer as bad as they're treated, and that guy is going to go out of business. Somebody else who treats his employees right and who pays them a decent wage and allows them to get their benefits and to be adult with them is going to do better than that person. But there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of those kind of employers out there, and I don't really know what to do about them except to try to avoid them as best you can. I know that people going from job to job and people in the job market are going to have a lot of trouble doing that. One of the things that's very, very interesting is there's an article in the USA Today, and this article really reflects something that I've been thinking for a long time and that I've been saying, although I don't know if I've been saying it on this show. And that's that one of the reasons that there's so many people on welfare and that there's so many people that are unemployed is because they've made it hard for people to do and to get jobs that are relatively low skilled. And one of the examples over here, there's local regulations, basically a kind of guild feudalism that professionalizes and creates a profession out of every single job there is. And there's no doubt about it. In Iowa, you have to go to school for 2,100 hours in order to become the person who braids hair. And there might be, if you want to be a full-up cosmetologist and do 100 different things, maybe that might be necessary. But if you just want a job just doing one thing, just to braid hair, to make dreadlocks and things like that, you shouldn't be required to go through a 2-year college full-time in order to qualify and get a license to braid hair or to do manicuring. Now, admittedly, there are people that have gone through this whole tremendous process, gone through all this education, and they'd be pretty resentful if all of a sudden they changed the rule. They said, you don't need that certification anymore. You went through all that college for nothing. Now anybody can come in there and undercut you for a lower salary. However, why is it necessary to raise and raise and raise that limit to the point where there are many fewer people able to do a job that a lot of people could do? And I'll give you an example. Right here at Tucson Access, they have a wonderful training program, and anybody who's interested really should come out and learn it, where they have a 40-hour class, teach you how to do simple editing. They have a 40-hour class, teach you how to do outside production. They have a 40-hour class. Take 3 or 4 these 40-hour classes, and anybody who goes and takes a look at some of the regular shows can see that they just do a magnificent job of camera work, directing, everything, lighting and sound and everything else. And they've had 120, 160 hours of education behind it. Now, I'll tell you, if you go to Hollywood and you try to get to be a cameraman, you have to have, I don't know exactly what the certification is, but that certification requires hundreds and hundreds of hours and a tremendous apprenticeship, or you just can't get a job. And that's just another case that they've professionalized the workforce, but professionalized it to the point where your average person, and what's worse, your below average person, just can't possibly get hired. And that's why there's a reserve of people that are unhirable, and probably pretty discouraged as well. Another thing is cab driving. I mean, to drive a cab, I know it's a difficult job and it's not an easy job, and you got to deal with people that are difficult, but really the only qualification that you truly need is a commercial driver's license. However, if you want to start a cab company, there's the city of Boston has the same number of cab licenses that was set in 1930. And you simply cannot. It's illegal to make a living driving around in your car, picking people up, charging money, dropping them off. And that goes with vans, that goes with a lot of other things. Street vendors. Many cities make it almost impossible to legally vend on the street, even though there's a lot of suppliers that would just love to have people go out there and vend on the street. They could make a few bucks an hour. They could probably make close to a living wage, or even a low-level living wage, employ hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. Obviously, there's street vendors all over third world countries and so on and so forth. You can still have regulations as far as food, because then that could be dangerous. But if somebody wants to sell some jewelry on the street, or some souvenirs near a tourist attraction, that's virtually illegal. If you try to do that, you're probably not going to be allowed. You'll probably be pulled out, asked to see if you have a license. If you don't have a license, going to be dragged away. And those are the kind of things and the kind of barriers that keep people from being employed, even at a low level, instantly and constantly. I know that when I lived in Washington, they allowed street vending, and they had pretty easy street vending rules, and there were hundreds of people that were supporting themselves, just come into town. They go to there was a few places that would supply street vendors and give them credit and credit to have some souvenirs, and they'd sell the souvenirs and come back the next day. And there were hundreds and hundreds of people that had jobs that otherwise wouldn't have jobs. The regular merchants didn't like it because they wanted a high overhead society where people have to walk into a very nice building that a merchant pays rent in order to buy a souvenir. But these hundreds and hundreds of people were employed where otherwise it would be impossible to employ them. Thank you very much. My name is Reed Silverne. The name of this show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker, and I'm proud of it. Thank you very much for watching this show, and I'll be here next week, and I hope you will be too. Thank you.